Good afternoon, everyone. We're here with Jay Bernier, head coach of the Iroquois Fall Storm. How are you today, Jay?
I'm great, Jay. Thanks for having me.
We talked a bit about off camera. Like you say, the guys have already boarded the bus to go down to Sudbury.
That's correct. We wanted to get them out and going as early as possible here for to avoid the storm that's supposed to happen here.
So, and that's the glories of living in the north, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So, before we talk about the playoffs and talk about you guys facing Sudbury, you joined the team at Christmas. They had 11-19 record when you joined them, and you finished above 500 the second half of the season. Can you talk a little bit about the first half of the season?
Well, for the first half of the season, I can't say much about the first half of the season on other than um, just from an outside standpoint looking in, it just seemed like the guys had lost their mojo, for lack of better terms. Just weren't playing to their full capacity, and you know um at the end of the day, this is a group that I got to watch last year at the end of the year with the large core of the group coming back. And just as a fan of the team, being from Iroquois Falls at the early portion of the season, you could tell there's a lot of talent in that roster. And you know just weren't finding the something wasn't clicking. And finally, when I um you know was asked to step in here after Christmas, we just spoke a lot about identity of the group together. Myself and my associate coach Alex Brisson, who has been a massive, massive part of this. Obviously, myself working full time as well. Alex has been able to handle the charge of most of the day to day stuff. With myself and Jared Dupuis, who's also native of Iroquois Falls, coming in as an assistant coach. He spent some time playing in Blind River a few years back. And myself with working with, in the league with various coaches over the last 10 years in the NOJHL. Spent some time with Kyle Brick while Jared was in Blind River as well. And we've had, opportunity to really learn from Kyle and the organization in Blind River as to what the importances are of setting culture and setting, what you want a full program to be, and not just throwing guys on the ice, and the importance, the core values of what it is to build a strong program for the community, around the community. And so we really started doing that, and along with Alex's X's and O's and support from the rest of us, obviously the guys have responded really well. We've got to credit these guys big time for the work they've put in as a group. Has been very impressive. Obviously, like you say, an 11-9-2 run after Christmas has been phenomenal. Obviously, the stretch we've been on here has been very impressive. And I have to say, like, it's all the players. It's just the players really buying into what was put in front of them. They had an opportunity to make a decision as a core group of players here at Christmas time, whether they were going to buy into this or not. And I think we've really given them an opportunity to believe in themselves as a group. And obviously the proof is there that that really worked out well for them, given the fact that they've went on this run for themselves, and they've been successful at it.
And like I say, going into the final week of the 24-25 season, you had the three top stars of the week for the NOJHL in Jordan, Carter, and Landon. Talk about those three heading into the postseason.
Massive. I mean, Jordan Mayo, he can't say much more than what his stat line reads about that kid. 16 years old, coming to us out of U16 AAA in Kingston last year. And you can tell all season there was something there in that kid. I got to meet Jordan in the summertime when I was running my summer program with TDI Hockey, and just a special kid, unbelievable kid, so dynamic. And what he's been able to do here in the second half of the year, I think his stat line is 33 points in 19 games after the break. And I think from what I looked at the other day, I think only Lucas Signoretti has 3 more points than him in that amount of time since the break. So when you can say you're hanging out with Lucas Signoretti, who's been playing major junior hockey, who's questionably, the last 3 years MVP of our league, you're doing something right as a 16-year-old, and the future is very bright for that guy. And at times when we were lacking offense, it just seemed like Jordy kept dragging us back into it. So you have to tip your hat to a 16-year-old who's able to do that. Carter Jameson has kind of come out of nowhere for us here in the last little bit. He battled his way around our lineup during the season, and it came at a point right after Christmas. We had a few suspensions and a couple injuries to our decor where we needed somebody who could play defense, and Carter had a little bit of experience playing down in Victory Honda program in Michigan last season as a defenseman here and there when they needed somebody to fill in that role, and he kind of come and offered to us. And when he came up and offered us, just we had nothing to lose at that point. Our season seemed like it could have been, down and out, and he proved to be an unbelievable defenseman, and we actually pondered at some points to keep him back there. But when we got our full complement of D back, we were looking for somebody to play alongside Jack Jarvis and Jordan Mayo, and we said, "What the heck? He's helped us out. Let's see how we can do and put in that role." It's not something he had the opportunity to do is play on a top line yet at the junior level, and the last few weeks, it seems like he's been heating up, and especially this weekend with his 6-point performance on 2 must-win games for us this season. He was obviously instrumental in that. And finally, the third one is Landon Chathui, where Landon's just kind of been, really an offensive production for this club all the way back into last year when he joined the team after Christmas of 24. He's an unbelievably offensively gifted player. We just spent a lot of time working on Landon's defensive side of his game. What's really impressive is how much he committed to doing that. It seemed like once the bad habits were shaken off, in terms of the risks he was taking sometimes in to create offense, it seems like once he kind of shook those off, he was kind of progressed forward back onto the offensive part where he was able to play a two-way game. And again, he had slowed down a little bit after Christmas in terms of the offensive production, but lately he's heated up all the way, being able to make a run at the end to help us find kind of our second head to that monster that we were looking for. You've seen Jarvis and Mayo do it all season. You've kind of seen Trethewey and Peaver do it at times with the help of Jaden Lyons, but it seemed like once Peaver and Trethewey were able to elevate their game, now we have those two lines who are able to score, who have been able to score, I should say, down the stretch here, and it's really been nice. And even he was able to, on a personal level, find his way back over Jack Jarvis, which is, a great problem to have when you can see your top three guys kind of chasing themselves down here in the stretch and hovering all around 50 points. Has been huge for, especially as a team who we were only able to, I think early on our offensive production was under 3 goals a game, and now we're hovering in the last 10 closer to 6. So it's been fun.
And for players that don't get much recognition, talk a little bit about your goaltending tandem between the pipes going into the playoffs tomorrow night.
Absolutely, and it's been wild. Maverick Fletcher, when he came in here for us early on, down from the Gouge. Obviously, I had the opportunity to see Maverick play in the Sioux last year and in his U18 down in the Great North Midget League, or the Great North U18 League.
Yeah, for Jeremy Stevenson, right?
What's that, sorry?
For Jeremy Stevenson?
I'm not sure. He spent some time playing for the Sioux and for Sudbury.
Yeah.
But I did remember his name and briefly watching him play as a young lad, and then obviously in the Sioux last year for the Thunderbirds. And when we had an opportunity to acquire him, it was obviously we definitely weren't going to pass up on the opportunity to do, given his proven track record. And when he came in early, he kind of gave us that pressure relief valve, really, when we weren't scoring goals, to at least be able to solidify the back end and say we could still stay in hockey games. And then out come Justin Sullivan from kind of nowhere as well, as he had come here on a tryout early in the season for the former staff. And he had some moments over the course of the year where he was good. You could tell he's a good goaltender. But it just seems like Justin Sullivan, every time you tell him he can't do something, that's when he elevates his play. And really, without both of those guys down the stretch, and you know, we had times where we've considered both of those guys our number one goalies. And after Christmas, Sully heated up. He stole us that first game against Hearst to get us rolling, and then took us back into the win column against Timmins to start this whole streak. And it seems like every time we play a big name team, Sully's been there. But then you have Mav knocking down the back door when we beat the Thunderbirds early January as well. We beat Powassan early January as well. So they've both taken turns, and I mean, what a great problem to have for a coaching staff to say that really we can turn around and pick any of those two guys, um, to backstop us, and we have a fighting chance every day. And I think, like you say, I could name a few guys who have been our MVP over the course of the season, but if I could line either of those two guys up, we definitely need to put them in contention of that mention for sure.
And again, you talked about some big games. Well, you had probably the biggest and hardest team in the league this year, starting tomorrow. You're meeting the Sudbury Cubs, where you guys are 4 games. 3 of them were decided by just 1 goal, but they'd taken all 4 games. Talk a little bit about what you guys have to do going into tomorrow night to open the series in Sudbury.
For our group, I think at this point is just believing that we can. I think we've proven that we've competed with basically every other team in the league this year. I'm trying to think of a team we haven't beaten. I think the only other team we haven't beaten this year are the Sioux Eagles. And we got to take them to overtime, and we had some close games against them as well. And quite honestly, we're not the same team we were even a month ago. Something we didn't have when we played the Cubs the first 4 times is kind of our offensive play clicking as much as it is now. And we understand that it's not going to be as easy to score that many goals against a team like that. Obviously, their decor is studded with former major junior players. Their front end is also, they've got great goaltending. So it's going to be a feat for sure. But for our guys, it's believing that we can. What's funny is that if you go back to 2018, when I was coaching down in Cochrane, we had Alex Brisson as a player who's now my associate coach. And we went down to Sudbury to play Rayside Balfour Canadians at the time in the final series of the season. And when we got down in the Chemi, that was 2 losses were handed to us pretty quick, and it was a pretty big reset for us. We come home and win the next 2 and never lost after that. But it's kind of a mentality where we've been preaching our guys. We're going in to play a very strong hockey team. There's no doubt about it. We're not going to make that a secret to anybody. But we also want to make sure they believe in themselves. Like you say, we've had 3 of the 4 games have been a 1-goal game. The game that wasn't a 1-goal game, we had to pull. I think we gave up 2 empty netters, and it was still a very tight game. So we've played the Cubs pretty well this season. We've kind of loaded ourselves because we knew if we were going to clinch that last playoff spot, it was going to be the Cubs. So all throughout, playing these very important games, we've kind of made sure to integrate video on the Cubs and getting our way of play ready for the Cubs to be able to do that. And sorry about that.
No problem.
The thing is our boys now believe in themselves a lot. And at the end of the day, we're going to give ourselves a fighting chance here. And the second thing is never giving up, because like I said, the proof is in the pudding that when you play these guys, they have a high offensive firepower. And on the flip side of it, we've been able to come back through this whole season where, we looked like we were down and out quite a few times in the season, I'm sure, from standings wise perspective. And we've had so many hurdles and obstacles thrown our way, and the guys have kind of used that to motivate themselves. And we know we want to keep that. We want to keep that going. We want to keep that going no matter what's going to happen in these hockey games. We're a group now that's never going to stop. It's never going to let up. It's never going to go away. And you know, I'm sure people have counted us out over the course of the season, and I'm sure we're not the obvious choice on very many people's bingo cards to win this series or the team that's going to upset the Sudbury Cubs. But at the end of the day, we believe there's 23 guys in that locker room that believe they can, and we're going to make it hard on them. And you know, the plan is to come back here after the first two games with a win or two in the column. And anybody who's been in the Just Jordan Arena has seen when that place is in playoff mode itself, it's an absolute barn to play in. It's a place that's going to be rocking. We're going to have you know, probably close to 1,000 fans in that place on game 3. So coming back with the win, give us those extra few bodies in the building to help us out, the seventh man, like they say. And anything can happen here, and that's what we've sold to our group. That's what we sold to our fans. And like I say, we've been counted out many times this season before, but here we are in the playoffs, and that's exactly what we're going to continue.
And Iroquois Falls, when you talk about fans, sits third overall in the attendance for the season with over 15,000 people there over the season. And a lot of people said, "Oh, NOJHL hockey going back to Iroquois Falls, how's it going to do?" You're probably one of you have the best support group in the Node, right?
Yeah, you can't count out the fans in Iroquois Falls whatsoever. I mean, I've lived here my whole life, and I've seen this place. You know, when the championship was won here in 09 by the Abitibi Eskimos all the way back then, it was, you know, I watched the video on YouTube, and the quality of the video was just atrocious going all the way back then. But I still get goosebumps every time I watch that video, just how special of a building that is. And you know, I've kind of dreamed my whole life of seeing that opportunity come back to Iroquois Falls, and it finally seems like we have a group of guys who, don't get me wrong, we're going to have to fight our way in. We're not the Felix Boutin, Josh Clancy, Marc-Alain Bégin, 09 Eskies, but we're going to make a run for it, and I can't wait to see that building on Monday night when we come back here and have our crowd supporting us. Because like you say, the Just Jordan Arena, the fans in Iroquois Falls are absolutely amazing. And it's just a crazy building and so hard to play in, you know, from the other side of the building when you've got 900 to 1,000 to 1,200 people, you know, kicking and screaming and cheering on their boys. And right now with the run we've gone on, I think our last home game had 900 people in it. It was a Saturday evening game against the Kirkland Lake Gold Miners. So I can't wait to see what these playoff hungry fans are going to look like on Monday night.
And this question here, I say, Coach Moxa might not like me saying this, but to me, I've watched probably the last 6 to 10 Cubs games, and I find a lot of them are disciplined. When they lose, the discipline, like you say, they're in the box quite a bit. How do you control your guys to stay out, like say, make the first hit, then walk away from those type of calls?
Well, it's no secret that the Iroquois Falls Storm have lacked discipline either this season. I mean, we've served some lengthy suspensions for some unfortunate things that happen over the course, but we've really made a commitment here to try to prove ourselves as a more disciplined team. And I think that's a very, very underrated part of our success here over the last 7 games is we haven't taken a lot of penalties. I think over the last 3 games we've played, it's something like maybe 6 penalties. So, you know, we've been there, but we also can't go into an Olympic size ice against, you know, one of the top ranked teams in the country and fall into that trap either. We have to keep our heads on. We have to stay disciplined. And that's something our guys know. And at this point, you know, as we've been preaching, we can put out all the tools, we can send out all the messages, but our guys have to execute on that. And the good news is we've stayed pretty disciplined when we've played Sudbury for the better part of this season. Like I say, we're sure they're going to throw some stuff at us. It's playoff hockey. You know, everybody's going to be putting everything on the line, but we've been preaching discipline, you know, to another level lately, and we've really reduced our penalty minutes, and I think that's going to be a massive key to success. You cannot give the Sudbury Cubs a power play.
No, and talking about going into the playoffs, team chemistry. How do you talk about your team chemistry, and how do you foster that success going into the tomorrow night's games?
Team chemistry in the locker room is probably one of the tighter groups I've seen, probably since our 18 group in Cochrane, which was obviously a very special group. And I attribute all of the success in Cochrane to Connor Lovey leading a phenomenal culture back then.
Was that the year you went to the Dudley? Sorry, in Dryden?
Yeah, that's the year.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And Connor Lovey was a special player. He's a special leader. He's still playing high level hockey with one of his biggest assets being leadership. And Alex was in that dressing room as an assistant that year, and we've really been instilling it, but naturally kind of seems like our guys are really drawn to each other. Everybody clicks. It's been one of the tighter knit dressing rooms I've been in since then. And the chemistry off ice is phenomenal with these guys. On ice, I mean, over the last half a dozen games, it seems like we've been clicking with the on ice chemistry as well. It seems like we found appropriate line combinations to find success, not only in the victory column but in the offensive production column. So I think the stars have all aligned really nicely for us at the right time in terms of all those things. Again, we're gonna have to go to war. We're gonna have to battle. It's gonna be hard, but the good news is about when you have that bond and that chemistry in your locker room, everybody's got each other's backs and can make for an interesting recipe.
And going into the first two games, like I say, tomorrow and Friday in Sudbury, then back home Monday, Tuesday. Is there a player you think maybe they might surprise the fans going into the postseason that they really haven't seen during the regular season?
From Irk Falls' standpoint, I think a line that's kind of been buzzing lately, and not that I'm surprised it's happening, because you've seen it last year with their production, just kind of sputtering out of the gates a little bit more this year. But I'm thinking this coming into the playoffs is kind of going to be more of their type of hockey. Is our captain Andre Cho and returning veteran Benjamin Sherwin. Those guys are just built for the playoffs. Emmerich Parody built for the playoffs. They're all three really big frame guys who can play with speed, who put absolutely everything on the line physically every day. They block shots, they hit, they finish every check, and it's no secret that they're going to be a huge key to our success over and above the other obvious ones, like you say. But those three guys for me are key for this series in terms of their defensive play, but they've also kind of found a way to start getting on the score sheet a little bit more lately, and they're your prototypical playoff shaped players where I really think if we're going to have some success and we're going to continue to score goals the way we are, they're going to be pitching in, and I would expect Sherwin, Parody, and Cho to be some playoff monsters if we're going to have anybody who's going to kind of, like you say, come out of the woodwork, so to speak.
And like the big word you said is monsters, and the thing I've always said over whenever I've coached, playoffs is a totally different animal, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And again, that's what we've been preaching our guys, is all we need is a chip and a chair and get into the dance and anything can happen. And the thing about us is, we've been fighting for our lives a lot longer than the Sudbury Cubs have had to this year. And our guys have been playing desperate hockey. And I joked with them a while ago, I haven't shaved my beard since February 8th, because we wanted to be in playoff form. And she's a little bit more bushy than my wife would appreciate it to be right now, but that's the kind of stuff we wanted to preach, is we're playing for our lives. It's game 7 every night, and going down all the way to the last game of the season where we're playing French River on Saturday night. Espanola made it hard on us, obviously, to win that last game at home against the Eagles there. That didn't go the way we expected it to go, and they fought for us. But what I really liked about those games is we could have clinched a spot the weekend prior against Kirkland Lake, and we didn't. We let a point go that was huge for us to we could have clinched it then and it would have been done, and we didn't do that. And then we won big in Powassan. And what I really liked is that Powassan threw their entire roster at us. And you know, they fought, and I was even, you know, I don't know if I should say surprised or impressed or whatnot when Powassan's kind of spot in the standings had been decided already. And we go up a goal, and Coach Goulet's changing his goaltender right away. You know, they were going to fight till the end against us, and it's really what we wanted to a certain degree. As much as it would have been nice to clinch a little bit earlier, just kept us going on our mentality of we got to keep going, we got to win, and we answered big in that way. And then, you know, with the Paper Kings winning against the Eagles last Friday night, forced us to have to play the game and put our full lineup in against you know, the Rapids. And again, they came at us with their full lineup, and it's exactly what we wanted. Because if you're gonna earn it at this point, you know, now that we're in, it's definitely the satisfaction of knowing you did it because you did it yourself. You didn't get any favors from anybody, and that's really what we're going to continue to do here. We've been fighting for our lives. It's been game 7 all the way to game 52 of the year for us. We had to win out, and we did it. And we're just going to play like our backs are against the wall from the first puck drop here, and that'll be our recipe to success along the way.
And that's one thing I always, my wife laughs at me, but I always cheer for the underdog. And sometimes going into a series like this, sometimes it's better to be the underdog, don't you think?
I absolutely love an underdog story, Jay. It's kind of been my whole life, and you know, hockey was never easy for me. It was never easy when I played. It's never been easy for me as a coach. I've just kind of found my way with my work boots and my hard hat, and you know, it's what we preach every day. It's what I preached in Cochrane when I was with Lenny. It's what I've preached, you know, all the way through this season. Is you know, I loved Craig Berube's comments earlier in the season when he was speaking of Leafs. We're going to beat the pretty right out of them. Well, that's kind of where we're at with our guys as well. And the underdog story is just more
Yep.
satisfactory, right? I rather the paved road's never been one for me, and we're going to continue to work the dirt road all the way to success here.
And you mentioned, like, say, Peter Goulet with the Voodoos. You and Lenny met him up in Dryden that year, didn't you? When he's with Trenton?
Uh, Pardon me?
You met Goulet when you guys were up in Dryden, didn't you? Didn't you play against him when he was with Trenton up there?
No, Trenton wasn't there that year. I think we got trying to think now. Um, I want to say North York, but it's not North York. Nevertheless, it wasn't Peter that year, but Peter and Lenny are extremely good friends. They've been for a while, and the year after we won the league and went to the Dudley in Dryden. We hosted the Dudley in Cochrane the year after, and Peter was let go, I believe, at that point from Trenton, and he came on to help us out down the stretch here because we took an early exit in the playoffs that year. As we were hosting, and because Peter and Lenny were such good friends, we had him kind of as a consultant down the stretch. And Peter's just an unbelievable guy. You know, last year, just to show you how much of an unbelievable guy Peter Goulet is, he last year had some family issues, and first guy to call me when times got hard for me and my family after Christmas. You know, phone rings and it's Peter Goulet checking up, and month later, phone rings again. It's Peter Goulet checking up. First guy to call me when I got the head coaching job here in Niagara Falls is Peter Goulet congratulating me. So Peter's an unbelievable guy. Extremely competitive, extremely well coached group. He always has that defensive group, and you know, I'm sure much to his chagrin, watching nine go in on his guys last week was not satisfactory. It makes it sweeter when you know just how much of a great guy who's coaching that club down there, and we were able to have an offensive outburst against them. I mean, you don't want to see it from his side, but it's definitely fun to watch from our side when you're able to do that against a guy who always has such a great defensive structure to his game. And I mean, Peter's been in the business for a long time, and there's reasons for that well beyond what he coaches on the ice. He's an absolute fantastic
Again,
guy.
while you're talking, my apologies. It was Wellington you guys faced up there.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, but I go back. Peter is an ambassador for hockey overall, but when it comes to the Noge and his involvement now in Powassan, that's huge, right?
Absolutely. You love to see a guy like that come to our league. He's been here for a few years now, but he comes with a wealth of knowledge and experience. And it's great for our league. Obviously keeps things competitive when you continue to bring good coaching such as he does to the league. And guys like myself who are a little bit younger have gotten to learn a lot from guys like him, guys like Calbrick, obviously guys like Lenny when I was playing under him. And now it's, I think Lenny was my age now when I was coaching for him almost 10 years ago. And you learn some great things, but it's fun to see those guys find success everywhere they've gone. Obviously Lenny doing the same thing out in the CC now. So
well, Jay, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to sit down with us, and hopefully we can do this later in the playoffs.